Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Alyssa, and this is my review for Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 4, Room for Growth. A spoiler warning is in effect if you have not seen this episode. So let me go ahead and dive into it. I think that this is yet another solid, enjoyable episode of Lower Decks, just like the previous three. I think all 4 episodes so far this season are in kind of that same range of solid episode, enjoyable, fun, but not one of the greatest and also not one of the worst either. And I can live with this. I can live with this level of episodes from a season of Lower Decks. I would like to see at some point those like really amazing, like just rolling on the floor episodes that tend to come at the end of the season. So I can hold off till the end of the season to get those. But so far I'm really enjoying this season. The episodes have been, as I said, solid, not void of flaws, not void of critiques, and that's the same as this week's episode, but overall, a lot of fun. So let me start with the cold open, because to me, this is actually the funniest laugh out loud moment of the season thus far, because I always love it when Lower Decks brings in these obscure references and does a parody of them. Now this one is one that we actually saw on the preseason trailer. This is, of course, making fun of the episode Masks from The Next Generation. And even though we saw it on the trailer, I still found this hilarious, because I think the trailer was kind of out of context. I thought it was funny that they were making fun of masks when I saw it in the trailer, but I didn't get the full context, so I didn't get the full humor until watching it in this episode. So I don't feel like the trailer ruined it at all, because the full context here is just how the submissive Mariner was of this. I'm like, oh jeez, you stop touching masks, people! Again! This is like the 3rd time this week, and God! And later in the episode, she's like, yeah, next time when Captain Freeman touches a mask, I can at least close my door and not have to... Oh, it's so good. And then even, after the cold open, they come back and they're like, ho hum, we have to fix the ship back again. Yeah, this is normal stuff. I love it when Lower Decks does this. They've been doing this a couple times this season, where they kind of just minimize all these weird, outlandish things that happen to the crew members. I mentioned last week they had just kind of a blink and you miss it reference to the bullying captain who became the captain because the previous captain turned into a baby or something like that. They're just like, oh hum, this is normal stuff that happens. And later in the episode they go into the thing about ransom, and I didn't quite get the reference, like the churro thing. I don't know, that was a little bizarre, but I do appreciate when they just kind of minimize these really bizarre events that happen in Star Trek on a regular basis. Now, unfortunately, the rest of the episode doesn't quite live up to the level of humor of the cold open. By the way, speaking of cold open, in case you haven't noticed, I am recovering from a cold, so I apologize if there's a little bit of a frog in my throat throughout this video. But just what happens when you get a cold. So anyways, the rest of the episode to me doesn't quite live up to that cold open. There's 2 different storylines. Let me go ahead and I'll start with the Rutherford and the engineers storyline with Captain Freeman, which, by the way, I do really continue to appreciate how they are mixing up the pairings. There's no more of this Mariner and Boimler over here, Tendi and Rutherford over here. Last week it was Tendi who got to be by herself as the other 3 went off together. This week it is Rutherford who gets to be separate from the other 3. So I'm continuing to appreciate that. But let me start with the Rutherford and Billups and the engineers and Captain Freeman and all of that stuff. You know, this whole gag with the engineers overworking and being obsessed with working and not able to relax would probably have played a little better to me if it wasn't directly contradicted by last week's episode, because Billups and Rutherford seemed perfectly capable of relaxing last week. I don't know, it's just because it was sexual last week, and that's a little weird too because Billups is asexual, but I don't want to get into the minutia of what it means to be asexual since I don't identify as being asexual. But apparently, if the relaxation comes in the form of something that is sexual, then they're able to relax. But if not, then so why didn't this whatever that character was called, I didn't catch her name, the one who was in charge of that relaxation place, why didn't she just, have some sexy women come and massage them? Because apparently that worked last week. So, I don't know. Maybe if this episode had aired several weeks apart from the previous episode, it wouldn't be so fresh in my head, and I wouldn't be thinking, but they relaxed last week. I mean, up until the point where they were taken to a volcano and with the psychic baby and all that stuff. But before that, they were relaxing just fine. So this was kind of weird to me. I don't know. I couldn't buy it. And then what actually did save this for me, what I actually did find funny about the storyline is not the Captain Freeman thing. The Captain Freeman thing was a little, I don't know. It was a little much for me. What actually saved it for me was a much more subtle humor in this that maybe you wouldn't notice right off the top of the bat. But it was the way that the caretaker character was behaving and how she herself was suddenly becoming more stressed, and it was never really emphasized. Like no one pointed it out. Like I love how she was smoking cigarettes. She's like, "This is getting serious." Pff, lights up a cigarette. See, that was where the humor actually worked for me. And it is not the most obvious aspect of this storyline, and then I actually cracked up at the end where she was like, "Eject this thing into space! We can't have this thing!" As she was like totally stressed out over this machine that they made that de-stresses people because it's bad for her business. But that character was actually the funniest part of this storyline for me. Overall, I think, it was fine. It was okay. Alright, so now we get into the main storyline with Mariner, Boimler, and Tindy going on these ventures through the ship to rig this lottery so that they can get the solo rooms, and they're competing with the Delta Shift. Again, I question having this episode back to back with the episode that they just aired last week, because this felt like the same thing. Like they're competing with these other three ensigns. Instead of being from another ship, they're just from another shift on the Cerritos. But it kind of felt like the same thing, although they did do things differently this time. Instead of them actually becoming friends and whatever like they did last week, this time it was kind of a misdirect, and it turns out they're still assholes and they were still looking out for themselves. Which I do appreciate that they did it different this week, but still, it kind of felt like the same thing. So, I don't know. Now, as far as all the little adventures that they were going on, there was moments of humor spread throughout that. There was fun moments spread throughout that. I think it's a little silly that they'd have to go through all these different obstacles to get to this thing. But, it's Lower Decks. I can accept silly. It's totally fine. The hallucinogens that Boimler and Mariner experience were pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. Also, we're getting the continuation of the Bold Boimler storyline. I wasn't sure whether or not they would just abandon that after one episode, or if that is something that they would try to carry forward. What I appreciate most about that storyline is, again, the more subtle aspects of it. It's not the Bold Boimler stuff, although some of the lines he had, like, this favors the bold. That was funny. What I appreciate more about that is the little side comments that Mariner would make here and there. Like at the end, how she was like, oh, well, things will change in a little while. Tendi eventually is going to get promoted to the bridge crew. Boimler's going to die because of this bold thing he's doing. Which I love those little remarks that she threw in there that kind of go unresponded to, which is also, I think, why I appreciated that caregiver character from the other storyline, because it was her remarks when they were just left out there and nobody responded to them, and I think that really helped them a lot. And so that's what really worked for me with the bold Boimler storyline. But I do wonder, how far are they taking this? Where is this leading to? So I'd be interested to see what the end point for this is, since this is clearly not something that they just decided to drop after one episode. I do think they have to take it somewhere now, so I'm curious to see where this is going. I also did kind of appreciate the ending where they had this nice moment where like, hey, we're together, we're going to be a team, and together we don't need the one room. And then it turns out, oh my god, they just made it into a party room. Why didn't we think of that? And Rutherford was like, dude, what the hell? Which, by the way, I think is out of character for Rutherford. But fine, it's okay. I didn't mind it. Where he's like, dude, what the hell? We could have done that. Why didn't you do that? And Tendi's like, well, we wanted to be together, and we just got lost in the spirit of togetherness. We weren't thinking, and we were tired. What are we gonna do? But I will say that, you know what? I think they're better off, honestly, with the open space than they would be crammed into one room with 4 people. That sounds like a nightmare. Why would you want that? One room with 4 people crammed in there? That's not going to be a party room. That's going to be a drama room. Trust me, especially these young ensigns, and what are they, in their 20s? There's going to be so much drama. They don't want that. You're better off having the open space in the hallway. Believe me. They don't realize how much better off they have it. But anyways, I thought that was funny, even if Rutherford was slightly out of character there. I did like the wrap-up of that, and I don't know if we'll see these Delta Shift people again. Personally, I don't need to see them again. I think we should veer away from this competition with other ensigns thing. We've done it 2 episodes in a row. I don't know, and I feel like we've done it in previous seasons as well. I don't have every episode memorized, but I feel like this is something that's come up before, so we could let that lie a little bit. But I am curious to see what they're planning with this whole bold Boimler thing. So we'll hold off for that. We'll see what is happening with that. All right, so I think that does it for my review for this episode of Lower Decks. It's time for my rating out of 10. So 1 would be the lowest possible score. 10 is the highest possible score. So my rating for Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 4, A Room for Growth, is 7.5. This is the tough one. I want to say 7 because of a lot of the flaws that I pointed out in this episode, a lot of things I didn't like about it. But that cold opening was so hilarious, though. And there was some great subtle humor in this as well. Doesn't feel quite like an 8 to me. Oh, this was a tough one, but I'm going to go with 7.5. I think for the second week in a row is 7.5. But another fun, solid, enjoyable episode of Lower Decks. And that does it for this week's review. Please join me as I review next week's episode of Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 5 already? Gosh, this season's moving quickly. Also, please check out my Star Trek Top 10s. Tomorrow, as of this recording, tomorrow, Friday, September 16th, I will be dropping my top 10 best Star Trek time travel episodes. So please subscribe if you have not already. Please hit the like button, ring the bell, and all of those things. And I will see you really soon. Goodbye.